Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Horse's Mouth monthly marketing meeting live stream. I'm Sean Bailey, editor-in-chief at Horse's Mouth. I'm here with Devin Kropp, associate editor, who runs the advisor client program, or our turnkey marketing program exists. But before we dive into what's happening for the month of June there, Devin, we always like to start our marketing meetings out with a sort of broader perspective on just general topics that everybody might be interested in. I see that we've got something teed up for this month regarding YouTube. What's going on?
So every year the Pew Research Center comes out with a social media usage report. I always take a look at this report, and usually I'm not very surprised by the results that come in. I think typically when people think about, if they had to guess what the most popular social media network is, people would probably guess Facebook. That would be my guess, just because they have such a hold on the marketplace. There's the whole advertising aspect of it that has all this money. You hear about it in the news all the time. But this year, I was really surprised when I opened the report because they reported that the most widely used social media platform in America is actually YouTube, that 80% of US adults use YouTube on a regular basis. And what was even more shocking to me was that YouTube was the only platform of those that they included in the study, which had Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, Pinterest, I think. YouTube was the only network that had significant growth over the last 2 years. So they increased their user base by 10% since 2019. Most of the other platforms stayed even. Facebook did grow slightly, but they didn't consider it to be, a significant number of users coming in. So I was actually really surprised by these results. I assumed it was going to be Facebook followed by LinkedIn. That's what we've seen in the past. They only started including YouTube a few years ago in the study, but it does seem like most people, are on YouTube and are using it. And I think YouTube is a really unique social media network, which we can, get into a little bit more of why that is too.
Yeah. I'm kind of surprised. As partly surprised, I suppose. But you know, they've been saying for more than a decade that video, online, YouTube, it's growing, it's growing, it's growing. At one point, they were saying so much data on the internet is going to videos. And of course, that's because videos have a lot of data. So it was kind of an apples and oranges comparison to data driven by YouTube versus, people looking at web pages or whatever. But, there's simply no doubt that it is huge. And I'd be curious to know what they think is behind that 10%. I do think a lot of big organizations are now recognizing, like we did this morning with Deborah Taylor. We, put on an event, a live stream event that we took to Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. So we're taking our content that's originating in Horse's Mouth, but we're actually on these other platforms. And I think players, vastly larger than Horse's Mouth are also recognizing, hey, this thing is basically, it's like a free TV channel that's available for them if they make the effort to be on and provide content in a way that, connects with their audience or helps them find unique audiences. Because I do think, I'm not sure if I've been on YouTube, frankly, in the last month or not. I'm sure I must have clicked on a video that was hosted on YouTube, and I'm sure that counts in the data. But in terms of going in specifically, like my daughter does, specifically to YouTube to watch stuff, that doesn't happen with me. But what are they saying about the demographics of this YouTube crowd here, Devin?
Yes, I think you're completely right. And we can get into why I think YouTube is so unique in that way, where people are, going there or, getting to YouTube via another source. But the demographics and why I thought it was interesting for advisors watching it is typically when we think about social media and social media marketing, the number one thing to do to decide what platform to be on is to determine whether or not your clients and prospects are there, right? There's no point in you wasting your time and energy on a platform that your prospects just aren't using. But with YouTube, they found that ages 50 to 64, 83% of adults in that age range use YouTube. So whether that's that they go to the website and search things out, or they're clicking on links, they have a profile with YouTube.
Yeah.
It's most popular with people who have a college degree. So a more educated crowd going to it. I think that's because there's just so much content on YouTube, and you can find answers to almost anything. It's pretty amazing. And most are making at over $75,000 a year. That's the highest level that Pew studies, but most of them were, over that amount. So thinking about, prospects that you're trying to reach, if you're in the pre-retiree market, it's very likely that, they're using YouTube in some way, shape, or form. And that if you can really establish a presence on YouTube, there's a very good likelihood that you'll be able to reach those prospects that you're looking for.
I wonder if one thing driven by the usage is the cutting of the cord trend that has been going on for quite a while now. And maybe that coupled with the fact that it was the pandemic as well. And, more binging, or people just go, looking for something alternative. I mean, it is, the monthly cable bill, it's just got totally out of control. I used to think it was a lot when it was 20 or 30 bucks a month. And now, people's packages, it's over $100 or something like that. It's really quite a lot.
I think that's absolutely true. And YouTube actually has their own YouTube TV now, where you can sign up for and get live TV through YouTube. So I do know that has also grown in the last few years. So that could also be contributing to, why that's going up. But that also, that helps you if you're on YouTube too, because if they're going there to watch their live TV, it's easy to toggle over and, have YouTube be top of mind when they're looking for, video content on something.
Definitely. And so, what from your perspective, from an advisor thinking about marketing, it's like, all right, so why would I want to go over to YouTube specifically? I mean, okay, you just laid the case that, that sort of pre-retiree crowd appears to be there. So that's kind of interesting.
I think too, unlike every other social media network that we talk about, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube is used more as a search engine than a social network, right? YouTube is the number 2 most used search engine. It's right behind Google. Google also owns YouTube. So, I mean, how do you differentiate that? Not sure. But studies will show that after Google, people will go to YouTube to look for content. And what's also different about YouTube is when most people go to YouTube, they're seeking out specific content, right? They're usually not going there and just like clicking on the random video that pops up on their homepage. Some might, but usually you go there looking because you want to know how to do something, or you're looking for an answer to something, and you're seeking out that content. So any content that you create, as long as you're, using keywords and doing all of that, has a much longer shelf life than content that you put on any other platform. Because if someone finds your video, it's likely that they had that exact question that you're answering in your video. So it's a much more captive audience, right? You know that they're interested in it. And if you're going to spend the time and even money, creating these videos, it's much more likely that people are going to find them months, years later, because it's not, like that news feed where you're scrolling through and it's constantly refreshing. They live on there forever. And if people are searching for those keywords or searching for those questions, your video is going to pop up. So I think that's what makes it really unique and a good place for advisors, because we always talk about content marketing and how educating clients and prospects is one of the top ways to be reaching people. And YouTube and video, we know, is, how people like to get their information these days. And so I think it's a really unique place for advisors to be. I don't think enough advisors are on YouTube right now. So it's still kind of a new space. And if you really commit to it, I think advisors can really make a mark on YouTube and kind of take control of that market too.
If there's anybody out there who's watching this live, or, later on, a lot of YouTube stuff is never a lot of video online. People are looking at not live after it's been recorded. But if you're an advisor out there and you have used YouTube, please get in touch with us and let us know. We'd like to interview you. I know that advisors, that there have been some programs promoting the fact that an advisor can be hugely successful by committing to doing some of the things that we're going to talk about here in a second. And I know there've been some programs driving people into that, And then the results, I'm not so sure about the results, so that's why I'd be curious to know. But like we were just talking a minute ago, I'd say 3-4 years ago, maybe even longer, Josh Scanlon, of course, his mouth member, he got the YouTube bug and he dove right into it. And well, Devin, why don't you tell us about, what's the sort of way for somebody to sort of get started?
Yeah, so the first step is to have a YouTube account. And like I mentioned earlier, Google owns YouTube. So if you have a Google account, you're pretty much ready to go. But, as an advisor and from a business perspective, you'll want to have a brand account on YouTube. You don't necessarily want to be using your personal account. You want to create a brand just like you create a business page on Facebook. So all of the branding between your website and all your other social media platforms match whatever you're going to do on YouTube. And there, you're able to customize that channel too. So you can add, photos, logos, keywords, links back to your website. That's hugely important. Anytime we're doing anything off website, whether it be YouTube or Facebook or LinkedIn, we always want to make sure we're directing people back to that website, so you can capture that information and they can learn more about you too. So, there is some setup work you have to do to create an account on YouTube. And you do want to spend some time really thinking about, what keywords you want to include, what topics you're going to be talking about, things about your niche, writing a good description about your channel and your brand, and making sure that branding really matches everything else that you're doing online. And then from there, it's, brainstorming what you're going to film your videos on. And I think what's interesting about YouTube, again, because it's such a captive audience, right? And people are looking for specific content. You don't necessarily have to worry so much about the time length of your videos. Usually when we talk about, Facebook videos, we say, don't make them too long. People aren't going to watch them. As long as you're, educating on YouTube and you're giving good content, you can take as long as it takes to get through that content. There are plenty of videos on YouTube that are 30 plus minutes long that people will sit and watch because they want to hear the full answer to whatever that question is. So number one, you don't necessarily have to worry so much about time. Take the time that it takes to answer the question and get your key points across. Number one. Number two, usually I think we hear a lot about like, I don't feel ready to be on video. I don't have all this fancy equipment. I think also on YouTube, you don't necessarily need, these slick produced videos. You could be simply, sitting like you and I are here, with a camera and a microphone and having a conversation. You're discussing something. As long as your content and education is good and you're giving people the answer to the question they want, they're going to sit around and listen to it. You go on YouTube, you can see some crazy videos, people, showing you how to fix something in your car and, they're using their cell phone. It's not good quality, but if it has the information that you need at that moment in time, you're going to sit and you're going to watch it. And then, obviously thinking about what kind of topics that you're going to be talking about, thinking about the most common questions you get from clients and prospects. If they have those questions, other people likely do too. Think about doing a kind of series of videos. So maybe you'll do a social security series where you have 5 different videos on different topics. That's good because you can say like, come back next week for my next video. You start to get people returning back to you. Do something on taxes, retirement. You can have all these different series that go together and work together well. You can be promoting those on, your website, on other social media, pointing back to YouTube, in email series. So there's a lot you could do to repurpose any of the content that you're creating for your YouTube channel to begin with. And, not being afraid of giving too much information away. I think that's usually what we hear most when we talk about videos. People are afraid that if they give this content away for free on video, no one's going to come work with them. Sure, there's a few do-it-yourselfers out there who will probably take your content and do with it what they want. But most will realize that you are educating them that a lot of this is over their head and that they could really use a professional to help them with it. But they still want to have a general understanding before they take that step. So don't be too worried like that you're giving away too much information, because education is the best way to get a new prospect to give you a call or come into your office. They will feel like they know and trust you. They'll think that you're ready to help them. And I think that's the most important thing about doing video is don't be too afraid about, giving away information.
Yeah. And of course, just to reinforce what you said about the length, I definitely am highly skeptical when you hear people say certain things about length, like a Facebook ad. I definitely understand that. But, when people say, oh, your webinar should only be 30 minutes, no one's going to look at it longer than that. It's like, that's a bunch of BS. If your content is good and you've attracted the audience because they're looking for the information, the question is the content good? And if the content is good, people will stick with it as long as necessary because they're looking for a very specific thing. The other point is that if you are a member of any of Horse's Mouth's Savvy programs, almost all of them come with an FAQ, like Social Security has 135 Social Security questions asked and answered. And this is great material that you can make short videos around too. There's all sorts of different things you can do in terms of getting out there. And I gather the way that the YouTube algorithm works is that they're heavily biased toward people who are regular posters. And regular, I think we would mean certainly more than once a week even, right?
Yeah, I think, if you're starting out, definitely think about what's doable for you. And just like most things we talk about, like don't, film one video and post it and don't have anything else ready to go. This is kind of best practices, film a handful of videos and then think about how you're going to release them and make it a regular schedule. So even if that's, twice a month, make sure it's the same day every month so people come to expect it and there's a pattern to that. If you could do it even more, once or twice a week, that's even better. But definitely having that regular schedule that people can anticipate that information coming out is really key to, all kinds of content marketing.
Right. Well, good. And so as we transition into the next part of our monthly marketing meeting here, where we're going to talk about what Horse's Mouth advisors are doing for marketing an advisor client this month. You want to end this by mentioning that there's an advisor client campaign in October that has to do with YouTube. What's that all about?
Yeah. So if anyone is, listening, or I know we have advisor client members who are probably listening too. If you're really wanting to lean into video and YouTube, we are doing a whole brand new advisor client campaign on video marketing. So it's going to contain a lot of information on YouTube, but just video marketing in general. That's going to be on October 7th. So save the date for that because it will have a lot of good info.
Great. Okay. So now it's June and we're wanting to think about our marketing for June and be looking ahead till July. So what do you have teed up for people in advisor client this month?
Yeah, I can't believe it's June 3rd already. And I know we talked about June a little bit in our last monthly marketing meeting, but since it's the beginning of the month, we'll just reiterate in case, you haven't gotten those items done yet. Our theme for June is estate or legacy planning. And so we have a really great article reprint that you can share with clients and prospects. It's called Financial Planning for the Generations. And it kind of connects, why it's important for different generations to be aware of the financial plans for the family. So parents and children and grandparents and grandchildren, helping you as the advisor kind of foster that conversation between the generations while everyone is still able to have that conversation and understand, the greater financial plan for that. So I think that's a really great piece. And it's a good introduction, I think, to generational planning in general, getting you in front of children or grandchildren of your clients and making that connection. This is a great piece for that. Obviously, if you're a master member or a member of our Savvy Generational Planning program too, it could be a great time to do a webinar or a workshop on legacy planning and generational planning. I think it's become a more popular topic over the last year or so. I think people are really starting to understand the importance of having these conversations now while everyone's able to have those conversations. So that's kind of the theme for June and what you might want to be thinking about. By the way,
just so people are clear, I'm sorry to interrupt, Devin, but in advisor client, Devin has teed up a marketing strategy for you and your team every single month with specific actions to take and do. Links to the resources and the FINRA review letter behind them, so the compliance is easy. It is totally knitted together and really served up for you to simply add your name and download them and send them to your clients, put them on your website, whatever the case is. It's all there. So I just want to make sure people realize that when we say turnkey, we mean it's like, this is the monthly marketing strategy. Here it is for you. Here's what you need to do at a minimum. Go ahead and do it. The action is what matters. But what else do we have this month?
Yeah, thanks. And just so anyone who's listening is looking for that, if you are on the advisor client website, you can click the calendar tab and it will pull up a nice web design page that will link to everything. So if you're wondering where to find it, that's where to find it. And then the presentation we have specifically for advisor client members this month, in addition to the communication pieces that we recommend, we'd like to recommend a topic for you to present on to clients and prospects, or just prospects. And the topic for this month is cybersecurity. So we have a little cybersecurity lunch and learn you could do. This presentation is about protecting your smartphone or your, smart device from hackers. It's a short presentation, but it's actually extremely popular. We turned it into a client-facing presentation because it was one of our promotional webinars here at Horse's Mouth about cybersecurity. We wanted to educate advisors on it, and it had such good feedback that we turned it into something for people to give to clients and prospects. So it's short. You can do it in the middle of the day, invite clients or prospects to come in for a webinar, do it as a workshop. Has 8 actionable ideas that everyone should take to protect their smartphone. So it's a kind of quick but really impactful presentation that you could be putting on for the month of June.
And is that presentation in English or in Russian?
It is in English.
All right, good. Yeah, I mean, how to hack-proof your smartphone. Your clients are going to love that one for sure. But moving on to July, our theme is caregiving. What do we got teed up there?
So we have another article reprint for you to send out. We always want to have at least one for you to send out each month, and we include cover letters so you can really just put it in your email system and go. But the one for July is 11 financial tips to making caregiving easier. So this is designed again to go out to your clients or prospects who might find themselves in a caregiving situation where they are the caregiver, and being able to prepare for that before an incident occurs and it's too late to plan, right? We want to make sure that your clients and prospects are planning while they still have the time to do that. And this really focuses on the financial aspect of it. And we have even more article reprints on the topic and some of them do deal with that emotional aspect too. So if you feel like you have a lot of clients or prospects who are dealing with this, you might want to do a drip series on caregiving for the month of July, and kind of touch on all those different emotional, financial, social aspects of the caregiving process. We do know that this is something that a lot of baby boomers have faced or will face in the future. So I think this is a great topic to get out in front of and be communicating on.
Yeah, and when when we think about, the broad value proposition that you're bringing to your clients is, what people describe as financial security, and part of being, financially secure in retirement is feeling safe and secure about your plan. And we know that this caregiving piece, along with long-term care, planning, it's a vulnerability. It's a topic that people have not wanted to look at, but I do think, we're definitely hearing from the field, people are interested in estate planning now more than they've ever been before, partly because I think COVID made people realize, mortality is mortality. We can't just ignore it. And the caregiving kind of fits hand in glove with that too, in terms of getting everything set for yourself and family members that you love and are involved with, whether it's your elderly parents or it's yourself or it's your adult children, right? These topics are critical, and we want to know that we've done, as advisors, everything we can for our clients, so that when one of these unhappy situations unfolds, at least we know that it's not made worse by the fact that, beneficiary form or a springing power of attorney or advanced healthcare directive or any of these things, weren't done. That makes the bad situation that much worse. So, yeah. And so what the master members can be giving the caregiving presentation in the month of July. They should be looking to do that. And what other things we have coming up in July?
So from a communication standpoint, we also have one of our quarterly postcards, our key planning investment deadline postcard for the summer months. This includes all the key financial dates, holidays, anything else that clients might need to know about on a nice kind of postcard form. You can personalize it, send it out. And it also fits in with the, different themes of the article reprints you're sending each month. So it kind of makes a nice package deal there. And then for advisor client members, summer tends to be a good time to get back into the CPA kind of marketing strategy, right? Now that tax season is over, it was extended this year into May, but July, they're done. So we do recommend our COI webinar, LinkedIn for CPAs, to be giving to CPAs during the month of July. They can get CPE credit for attending that if you go through us and just follow some steps. This is usually a really popular topic with CPAs because they, most of them are on LinkedIn, but don't really know how to capitalize it and use it from a marketing perspective. And this presentation that you can give will kind of walk them through different things to do. You don't need to be a LinkedIn expert to do it. The slides and script will help you do that. And it has some nice handouts that also go along with it that they can take. You can personalize with your info, keep you top of mind with them. So that could be something that you want to start scheduling definitely now if you want to do it in July and get on a CPA's calendar to start presenting that.
Good. All right. So well, I think that brings us to the end. If there are advisor client members out there and you have any questions, feel free to send us an email, contact member support. There's a lot going on in advisor client, and to get the most out of it, you need to spend a little bit of time to understand everything that Devin has jammed in there, ready to go for you. So, all right, everybody, I think that does it for this month. Okay,
Sorry, we do have a few questions that have come in. So first I want to address Brent, who is asking where to access the calendar tab on the advisor client webpage. And I can bring it up in just a second, Brent. So maybe actually, while I do that, if you guys want to answer Mike's question, which is, so our compliance department does not allow us to have a YouTube account. Out of luck then?
Yeah, I mean, unless you can keep pushing them to allow it. Yeah, I mean, there's.
Yeah, I guess the question is, right, they have something against YouTube, but they're okay with Vimeo, or they're okay with having, your own videos on your own website. So Mike, not exactly clear on what the situation is there. But obviously, everybody operates under a compliance regime, and some of them are really terrible versus just bad. And, my heart goes out to you if you can't get on YouTube.
Yeah.
But, keep working the refs because, here's Devin coming in and saying this is the most widely used social media platform, 81% of U.S. adults, and that the main demographic is 50 to 64. I mean, that is the absolute sweet spot for a financial advisor. So, we just need to lean in on the compliance departments, on management at your firms. This industry has never been cutting edge when it comes to allowing advisors to leverage technology at the cutting edge. It's usually, at the trailing edge, unfortunately, but not always the case. But so, yeah, just see if they have any workarounds there. The point is that, video is a skill set that I think everybody can and should engage in now. And it doesn't have to be a YouTube thing. It can be just you hitting the record button, looking into the screen and saying, hi, folks, I just want to remind you, we're going to be putting on my Savvy IRA workshop, next Wednesday at 6:30 p.m. IRAs are, really things are changing relating to them. They're a critical aspect of everybody's retirement. They're hugely complicated. People make mistakes. I want to be sure that you don't make any mistakes. So be sure to sign up for my Savvy IRA webinar next week at, June 8th or whatever. Just something simple. It's like a voicemail. It's like a video voicemail. And so embrace the technology. Don't worry, you don't need to be the Walter Cronkite, or this isn't the evening news. You don't need to have a big fancy setup. I think everybody's, gets that at this point. So just go for it. And if you're really interested in using video, we just briefly mentioned Josh Scanlon, You can look him up on Horse's Mouth, and his last name is Scanlen. I believe it's Scanlen. And he was a pretty good case study on somebody just going after video, YouTube in his case. But the point is to embrace that technology as a communication tool. Really smart thing to do.
Okay, so I have this prepped here, so let's really quickly show it. Okay, so Brent, so first of all, you have to be an advisor client member or a Horse's Mouth master member to access it. But so on horsesmouth.com, you can go up to the top to go to AC, to go to the advisor client page. And then once you're there, you will just go to the calendar tab right here on the top navigational menu. Just click that and voila, it's right there. So that's how you find that. And let's see.
Right there with that. Yeah.
Yep, I think that is it for questions, guys.
All right, everybody. Well, thanks so much. Keep marketing. Keep your activities going. That is what puts energy out into the universe. I know it sounds kind of woo-woo, but it's absolutely true. You get behind things, you communicate with your clients, you send them things every month, whether it's a newsletter, not a newsletter, intermittent, send them things, do things, because what happens is the energy comes back to you, and next thing you know, you got a new lead, you got a prospect, you got a new client. It's just the way, it's the physics of marketing. So everybody, we'll see you next month. Take care and enjoy the summer weather.
Bye, everyone.